In Sky Bet League One, in case of emergency, break out the Jimmy Glass. That's what Exeter did. Goalkeeper goal. Goalkeeper goal. Goalkeeper goal. It doesn't get better. Jack Bycroft. Yes, mate. What a moment. Called Brian Barry Murphy. The difference. Taking Cardiff's Sprogs back to the Championship. The Pilgrims took the green pill as everything came up Argyle in a chaotic weekend for the playoff race. At the bottom, oof. Big oof. The goalkeeper goal leaves Wimbledon trembling. And I have to ask, George, are we Orient about Orient?
Ooh.
Sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. This is not the Top 20 podcast. And we've got another promotion to talk about in League One. But before we do, let's talk about how it was secured and confirmed, George. At St James Park, Exeter, fighting their own battle down the bottom, drew 3-3 with Stockport, and the scoreline only tells a portion of it.
Yeah, it does. Exeter, after the... thinking they'd won the Devon Derby in their previous game and conceding late in a 2-2 draw, hosting Stockport County, probably feeling quite buoyed by the performance against Argyle, which was much better than anything we'd seen under Matt Taylor so far. Find themselves 2-0 down within half an hour. Malik Motherson and Josh Stokes scoring 2 for the visitors. And it kind of felt at that moment like Exeter's time in League One was probably coming to an end because, even though this was a home game with a game against Burton coming up and then Bradford on final day, they were running out of time. But Reece Cole, who's in really good form at the moment, scored a lovely finish from the edge of the area shortly afterwards to make it 2-1. Tatarov made it 2-2 halfway through the second half before Odin Bailey scored a goal to put Stockport back 3-1 up. Exeter were pushing forward, trying to find a way to get back in the game. Mm-hmm. And they get a corner in the 96th minute. And they need a point. Like a defeat here does nothing. If they concede on the counter, it doesn't really matter because it's still a defeat and it's just one goal for a goal difference that is already, not great. So their goalkeeper, Jack Bycroft, who's been their second keeper all season, recently coming to the side due to injury to their first choice stopper, comes forward. And there is a brilliant alternative angle that the Exeter City official account posted where he just times his run to perfection and meets the header so sweetly, unchallenged, and commits to it, fires the header into the back of the net. And straight away you see the reaction. He's over the moon, boots one of the balls on the cone in front of the home fans. To incredible scenes in the corner. Exeter City fans, players, Bycroft himself celebrate what is going to be a famous goal and a goal that they hope, with Wimbledon having dropped points. It's only a point, but that point could be so important come the end of the season. And could we be looking at one of the most important goals? And also, I said a second ago, their goal difference isn't great. Their goal difference is better than most teams around them. So had they conceded, that wouldn't really have made a massive difference.
The most mad thing about this is, and it wasn't logged by any of the stats sites, is that 2 minutes earlier, Bycroft had gone up for a corner, Bycroft had met it, and Corey Adai had poured it over the top. So it was his second shot on target of the game.
How's that been missed?
And from the resulting corner, he then headed it again. You've got to ask some questions of Stockport County's defending. To let the goalkeeper that's come up for the corner head the ball at your goal once might be considered careless.
He's an extra man.
To let that happen twice. Well, that's just daft. Carl Wootton continuing to play centre-back for Stockport in their injury crisis and doing quite well, or at least he did in midweek against Wimbledon, perhaps less so here, conceding 3 goals. Bycroft, the first goalkeeper to score in a League One match since Ian Turner for Preston against Notts in August 2011. I will never, ever tire of a goalkeeper goal, and it's just so significant for Exeter, keeps them very much alive, and we'll touch on the relegation battle shortly, but it also meant that the Cardiff fans who were at the Majewski, they had just seen their team win by 3-1. That wasn't enough to secure their safety because Stockport, so many games in hand, still technically could have got the 18 points, whatever the gap was. But the extra goal, and Stockport therefore dropping 2 points there, meant that Cardiff's promotion was secured. It means that improbably two teams or two sets of fans have celebrated promotion in Reading over the last couple of weeks. First Lincoln and then Cardiff City. Great news for the Purple Turtle and other establishments. I think the Cardiff goals in the game summed the team up quite well. It wasn't an easy game for them by any means, but Ruben Colwill scored a towering header, the sort of towering header that someone of his height you think should be scoring more of, but he hasn't scored many headers in his career, just 3 in his 19 goals as per who scored, but possibly something that he could add to his game, and certainly has added a lot to his game under Barry Murphy. One of the things about Cardiff is, yes, very high possession team, but they will break quickly if you allow them to, and if you come onto them and press them high, they're not shy in getting the ball forward quickly, and they're pretty deadly. Wintle through to Kellyman for the second goal, and then after Reading had pulled one back, Perry and G scored an absolute banger with his weaker foot from 20 yards, and I can picture at least half a dozen absolute crackers that Cardiff have scored this season. They've got players like Wintle, Turnbull and G, guys like that who can score from range. And then also something we've seen a lot of, Nathan Trott made a couple of amazing saves for good measure, and what an unbelievable season Trott has had. One of only very few signings that Cardiff made famously last summer, but has had a massive impact. We've already released on YouTube our special episode on Cardiff's promotion, so do go and watch that. We will also put it out on the audio feed. We've got to work out where to put the Coventry, Cardiff, Bromley episodes on the pod feed this week, probably Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. Loads to celebrate here. George has done an amazing job, in particular deep diving on all the reasons why you might see Cardiff winning promotion to the Championship and say, well, yeah, you should do. You're a big club for this level. It was never as simple as that, and you shouldn't retrofit that narrative. You should listen to George's breakdown on how they've done it and on that man, Barry Murphy. And it's always fun to see a few. We both get frustrated about the way that managerial appointments generally get discussed. I'm kind of generalizing here, but in broad footballing circles, there are some myths, I think, around who you can and can't hire. And I think for a club like Cardiff to hire a guy whose last senior head coach job saw him get relegated from this division with a tiny team for the level, and he comes in and absolutely rocks your world. I think we like that a lot. Reading, 3 defeats in a row to drop from 6th to 10th. That uneasy vibe between the fans and Liam Richardson continues. In fact, we're in open letter territory. Rob Couig had to write to the fans in midweek. He wanted to make the point that this was not an easy season for the club. They went into it with 7 first-team players under contract. Bad start under Noel Hunt since Liam Richardson's arrival. He said, we've seen clear progress in terms of points accumulated, one of the stronger sides in the division. We want to see free-flowing attacking football, and that will come. But before that, you must build the foundations of a successful team, which requires discipline, structure, and at times a results-first mentality. Progress takes time, which all seems kind of fair enough to me. But it's very much a watch this space when it comes to Reading at the moment. Above them, the playoff picture rages on. All 4 teams in the playoff spots drew, some of them in quite dramatic circumstances. George, Bolton 3, Huddersfield 3. What is going on in Huddersfield matches?
Huddersfield fans are wondering, how long can this continue for? Having had 3 consecutive draws, they were the ones who, for the second time, against Wycombe a couple of weeks ago, they took the lead late on in the game, having been pegged back before Lowe scored in the 101st minute to make it 3-3. They hosted Cardiff, and Yusuf Salek scored in the 95th minute to make it 1-1. Here, surely, when they are playing at Bolton, but they're 3-1 up after 66 minutes after Osei Tutu had been sent off for Bolton for a kind of push in the back. They gave away a penalty. It looked, I can't see a great angle of it, but the referee certainly had a very good angle and seemed pretty convinced that Osei Tutu made a pretty foolish foul with no intent to play the ball to make it 3-1. But surely from there, Huddersfield are like, this is, Bolton don't really need this. They're going to finish in the top 6. But Kenny scored to make it 3-2. And then in the 101st minute again, so the second time in 3 games that Huddersfield conceded in 90 plus 11, a goal that makes it 3-3. Sissoko with just such a good goal. Just on that right,
Bolton have scored 13 goals in injury time this season, and so many of them have been absolute bangers as well. Normally it's Koza Dewberry.
But this is what's funny, is this time Koza Dewberry got on the ball exactly where you'd want him to get on the ball in order to do what he normally does. but he can't. Like either he's knackered or there's no room to do it. So he lays it off to Ibrahim Sissoko, who does exactly what Cozy Adubri has done so often. Shimmies it onto his left foot and bends it into the top corner. An amazing strike. Just if you're a Huddersfield fan, I cannot imagine what it felt like to see that ball go in and see another 3 points go. When you look at the league table now, and you look at where Huddersfield Town would be had they picked up the extra 6 points that would have come had they held on to those wins. They would be on 70 points. They're currently be 6th and 2 points clear of 7th. And they've all come as basically the last kicks of the game. But in this case, to do it, to take the opportunity that was presented to you by the opposition going down to 10 men after a first half where you've been second best, and not be able to hold on to it or even go on again and score more goals, they'll feel incredibly frustrated. But yeah, some drama.
Barnsley 2, Bradford 2 was a pretty lively one as well. On the morning of, Barnsley released a statement to say that Conor Harrahan will be leaving as head coach this summer after a full season in charge, his first as a young head coach. They are bang in the middle of the table, and they had a big moment here, a great moment. It's not been a great few months for them by any means, but this was a pretty exciting late equaliser. They were down to 10 men after like 6 minutes. Vimal Jonganathan flying in, reckless, dangerous red card, and they went ahead. Long throw, well guided in by the head of O'Connell. Then Bradford turned the screw. Humphreys set up Nick Powell to head them level, and then Toure with a great cross. Mark Roberts heading into his own net. 2-1 Bradford against 10 men. The team with something to protect in terms of their playoff position. You'd think they'd see it out, but no. Really nice equalising goal. Patrick Kelly with the line-breaking pass. Reyes Cleary with the run from outside to in. The ball across to Leo Farrell, who is a new name for us, a 20-year-old academy striker. Went to Scunthorpe in March in the National League, scored 4 goals in 7 there. Came back, has been getting a couple of minutes here and there. Just got a couple of minutes on the pitch here and had his first big moment. It's good to see. Barnsley have not had a good season. It is clearly not a happy place. Harrahan is leaving, and it's not hard to read between the lines based on things that he has said over the last few weeks, based on how the club have been open about having to basically lower the budget over quite extended period of time now, that potentially the budget is probably going to have to drop again, and maybe for Conor, like, what is the point of managing a team that have higher expectations than your budget suggests that you should be delivering? But maybe this will be his legacy. Maybe this goal kind of sums it up. Patrick Kelly's been a massive bright spark. Reyes Cleary has been a massive bright spark, and an academy player in Farrell scoring as well. That'll be Harrahan's legacy. Like, the results have not necessarily been there, but in terms of blooding young players, giving them a chance, believing in them, and giving them a platform to make mistakes, but also to show how talented they are, there are a good 4 or 5 young Barnsley players, Jonganathan, Bland, I hadn't mentioned, who have come on a lot, and that will benefit the club in many, many ways that may not be seen in the wins and points column right now. He's played pretty good attacking football, as well as letting young players express themselves. 65 goals. They are the 6th highest scorers in League One, but 67 conceded, the 3rd worst. So a really gung-ho approach. Barely kept any clean sheets. It's been entertaining from a neutral standpoint, disappointing from a fan standpoint. From Harrahan's standpoint, I think he leaves with decent credit. I think lots of clubs, when they go through manager hires, they'll want to see, well, a lot of them will look for a young manager maybe. They'll look for someone that plays young players and develops transfer value in that way. A style of play that at its best has been pretty easy on the eye. A mid-table finish with probably a mid-table budget. And crucially, now a year's experience at this level. I think it's, Harrahan leaves. I don't think his stock has fallen by any means. I think even if it's been a disappointing season for Barnsley, it's probably for his own head coach career been a net positive, I would say anyway. For Bradford, this is not great to let a team with 10 men for most of the game come back and equalise. Like, this isn't done for Bradford. They've got Argyle at home tomorrow, and they can either book their spot, right, for the playoffs if they win, or they will start feeling, but if they lose, a bit wobbly.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it only dawned on me this morning how big a game this is, because again, you look at the league table and you're like, they're 4th. They're on 72 points. They're 6 points clear of Plymouth Argyle.
Easy.
However, their goal difference isn't great. The +6, so Stockport's goal difference is better. Argyle's goal difference is better. If Luton were to catch up with them, their goal difference will be better. They're currently 2 clear. But also Bradford's last 2 games of the season, they host Bolton after Plymouth's game, and then they go to Exeter on final day, which again, it's one of those where we're sitting here now, we don't know what that's going to be because we don't know what Exeter's position is. But crucially for Argyle, if Argyle beat Bradford, their last 2 games are Port Vale at home and Northampton away from home. Like, you know, possibly playing 2 relegated teams in their last 2 games. So like if Bradford lose this game into Argyle, then, you know, it's either win it and basically secure your spot or lose it, and then you're in real trouble.
Stevenage. Wasn't a great weekend for them either. Argyle won at Wimbledon, which I will tell you about forthwith. Stevenage had 3 points in their hands, but they were playing against the monster of League One, Lincoln City. Injury time equaliser, 2-2 draw.
Incredible. And there was actually, you and I were at the EFL Awards yesterday, and Sonny Bradley spoke when he was picking up his team of the season gong. And he mentioned that a big part of the reason why they're still really motivated was that this last gasp equaliser continues their unbeaten run to 26 games.
Amazing.
And he referenced that the record unbeaten run in League One was Luton with 28 games, and there are 3 games left of the season. So, you know, I feel like Lincoln are really motivated to go these last 3 games unbeaten, and not only win the league title, but also get that record in the record books. And it felt that way because when they scored, you know, the scenes that came didn't look like in the away support, and also with the players, didn't look like a team who just scored a kind of relatively meaningless equaliser on their way to a title. Stevenage will be, of course, frustrated. You know, really impressive for them to bounce back from that 5-1 defeat at Bolton last time by going ahead here within 3 minutes. A nice strike from Louis Thompson from the edge of the area. Derikwa scored a nice goal to make it 1-1 before Jamie Reid put Stevenage up again. And they, you know, like, credit to Stevenage, as they always do. Like, they made it really difficult for Lincoln. And Lincoln had very few shots. They didn't really create much from open play or from set piece opportunities. And when Street's shot came, it was only the 5th shot they had in the whole of the second half, despite it being a half where they were behind for most of it. So yeah, Alex Revel and his team will be incredibly frustrated they weren't able to get over the line there, because had they done that, they'd been in a really good spot. They host Barnsley on Tuesday night, which looks like it should be a winnable game, despite Barnsley's, you know, impressive performance with 10 men on Saturday. But yeah, I guess with Luton drawing and Huddersfield drawing games they could have won, it could have been worse for Stevenage. But even so, it's, you know, it wasn't the weekend that they'd have hoped for.
And therefore, Argyle were the winners in this playoff picture. They are now 2 points back from Stevenage. Luton are a point behind them, and then Huddersfield a point behind that, 4 points away. So Argyle's win at Wimbledon was massive. The first half was a bit of a thumping, really, but it was only 1-0 at half-time. Mitchell stabbing home from a set piece. Wimbledon really struggling with them recently due to central defensive and Omar Bugiel-shaped absences, I think, defending their own box. But they did equalise Wimbledon in the second half. Junior and Keng, continuously a bright spot for them. Really, really great to see how many minutes he's getting in lots of different roles, and pretty much wherever he plays, he always seems to provide an injection of energy and skill at the top in attack. Anyway, nice move that he was at the heart of. Ali Smith scoring, and then at that point, feels like maybe it could go either way, and Wimbledon maybe get a bit of confidence, but frankly, Argyle just took control again. Laurent Talai scored an absolutely astounding goal. Sort of first time volley where if he means any of it, it's incredible. He might have just flung out a leg basically and just got the perfect connection. It was a great goal. He then combined well with Peppel for the 3-1 goal. That means Talai and Peppel have scored 30 goals between them, and Oseni has 7 as well. So 37 between your 3 strikers. They've barely been fit at the same time all season, but they are now, which should help them over the next couple of games as well, particularly with this one at Bradford in midweek, a massive game. And if Plymouth win, then they will be really breathing down the necks to Stevenage, who have a home game against Barnsley. They'll be favourites for that. Luton are at Rotherham in midweek. Stockport are playing as well at home to Mansfield. A reminder that we do have coverage of the midweek games on a subscriber-only podcast called Under the Lights. You can sign up as a paid subscriber of NTT20.com. You get loads of perks, a lot of good written content, loads going out this week. but also our bonus podcasts covering the midweek fixtures. And you can listen to those on Spotify or on other podcast platforms. You don't have to listen through the Substack app. So make sure that Bradford Argyle game in particular will be one that George and Matt break down a lot. For Wimbledon, on the wrong side of this, on the wrong side of everything at the moment, 6 defeats in a row. They had 49 points after 35 games. They now have 50 after 44, so 1 point in 9. And the team is just unrecognisable from the team, for example, I saw beat Blackpool. So many injuries, players that are fit having to play in different positions in order to fill gaps, complete loss of confidence, loss of defensive zeal and ability to defend their box. Barely scored over the last 6. It's a tough scene at the moment. The good news for them is that they're still 2 points clear of Exeter. It's still in their hands. They've got Wigan away, whose safety has been secured. They've got Huddersfield at home on final day, who likely won't be able to make the playoffs by final day. They need to find one performance, definitely, Wimbledon. And also, of course, if Exeter fail to win either of their last 2 games, then Wimbledon should be safe. And there are other teams in that relegation picture as well. But just to tie off the playoff picture, Luton coming from 2 down at Mansfield.
Yeah, I feel like a big opportunity lost, because even though Mansfield were by far the better side in the first half an hour and were ahead 2-0 after 2 John Russell goals that they deserved, from then on it was one-way traffic, and it felt like Luton were going to win it, really. Casey Palmer scored with 5 or so minutes to go left of the first half, and Luton ended the first half really, really well with a couple more chances. Al-Hamadi had one. Vandenberg had another one, but couldn't really find a way to go into the break level, but found it pretty quickly. After half-time, with Shaden Morris scoring shortly after half-time, Mansfield couldn't get anywhere near Luton's goal, frankly. There's an amazing shot map of their second half. They had 6 shots in the whole half, and it's basically just a line from about 35 yards out. But Luton created loads, weren't able to find a way to score. Calnay Smith hit the woodwork shortly after Morris's goal. Palmer had an opportunity, Wells had an opportunity. A string of decent saves from Liam Roberts kept the scores level. So Luton, despite, it's a rare case of going 2-0 down in a game, but also coming away from it feeling like you probably should have won and you missed an opportunity.
So, down the bottom, it's not just Wimbledon that Exeter could catch. What the hell, Orient? They lost at home.
Orient.
To already relegated Rotherham by 2-0. A Rotherham side that had 2 19-year-old academy kids in it, that had 17-year-old Harry Gray, Leeds Loney, scoring the first goal across, going all the way in. Orient responding, Wellens responding with a double sub at half-time. Not much impact, 2-0, Nombe, game over. Orient winless in 6. They failed to score in 4 of those. Then their last 2 games of Blackpool away, who are still motivated to probably pick up some more points and also in great form, and then Burton at home, who are part of this conversation as well. In the same way that when they won 4 in a row, Orient, and we looked at it and I went, wow, as Abdoulai's playing central midfield, I wouldn't have necessarily picked that as being like the winning ingredient. And the front 4, some of them had stepped up all of a sudden, and then as soon as that happened, it's gone completely the other way, and it feels like they're still struggling to find something that works again. And it's they are massively up against it in the same way as Wimbledon, for example. For Rotherham, bit bittersweet this. They got relegated last week. Why couldn't you do this more when it mattered, basically? It's been a horrendous season. Covered the relegation in more depth on Under the Lights in midweek, but it's 2 relegations in 3 seasons for Rotherham, which is a real shock to the system. A club that spent a few seasons intermittently in the Championship, of course, over the last 10 years, who just haven't really recovered from the end of the Paul Warne era. Whether it was Liam Richardson or Matt Taylor, they were either the wrong people or probably asked to do a bit too much and sacked maybe too early and unfairly. Tony Stewart hit the big red button marked Steve Evans, and you can understand why you might do that. It went completely the wrong way, left them with a really poor, quite expensive squad. They had to sift through the wreckage last summer, and the squad they put together for rookie manager Matt Hamshaw has proved itself to be incredibly flimsy, inexperienced, only good in flashes. Hamshaw couldn't find a system that either kept other teams at bay or created regular chances in order to kind of cover up the failings defensively. And I think he was slightly stitched up. I think it's a bit unfair to have appointed a first-time manager, particularly one who you're leaning on quite a lot emotionally to kind of manage the fan base because you're a fan yourself. And obviously Lee Clark's come in and has had, until this game anyway, very little impact. Should say that Lee Clark had a family bereavement. His mother-in-law passed away last week, and he insisted that he wanted to make it down for the game. Obviously his team put in a big performance for him, very notably, and then he headed back up before or just after full time. So sending him all of our best. And yeah, this team put in a hell of a performance for him on Saturday, but they will be in League Two next season. And we'll wait and see whether Lee Clark will be in the dugout for that. Yeah, and then on Sunday, Peterborough and Burton went head to head, and they're both still in this discussion as well. They're level on points and they shared the points, 1-1 draw. Tyrese Shade with a great assist to set up Charlie Webster for Burton's opener. And Shade was really lively throughout, had a couple of chances to extend it. But Harry Leonard, another impressive young attacker, kind of saved Peterborough with a really nice strike from the edge of the box, and then had a big chance to win it, which was saved as well. So Leonard and Shade probably the main characters here. Both of these teams are 4 points above Exeter, who have 2 games left. They're both 2 points above Wimbledon. They're both 1 point above Orient. Peterborough have 3 games to go, so should still be safe, but they won't feel like that. It's a 1 win, 5 draw, 6 defeat record in their last 12, only 3 points in their last 6, and they go away to Stockport next. So things could get nervier for Peterborough. They're really, really not playing very well. And for Burton, who I always feel play fine, their games are home to Exeter, away to Orient. Burton, whatever the case, whatever their results, are one of the main characters in the relegation picture still.
Yeah, I mean, I messaged you yesterday morning saying that Peterborough Burton felt quite drawy because surely there's a chance that if it's a draw within like 20 minutes at the end, they're both going to be like, probably could do with not losing this game. And you look through the fixtures that are coming between these teams that sit just above AFC Wimbledon and they're all playing each other, right? Obviously, the Exeter Burton game will be interesting because Exeter have to win that, and therefore there's none of that going on. But you look at Blackpool, whose next game is Leyton Orient at home. If Blackpool draw that game, then they are mathematically safe. Right now, they're not quite, because if they lose both and Exeter win both and other results go against them, then they'll be dragged back into it, but they're pretty much there. That final day game between Leyton Orient and Burton could be it could be that a team need to win, but it could also be that a point for both teams might get them on a total that makes it harder for the teams beneath them to catch them. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out, because as I say, these games, if both teams are draw is enough, then obviously they're not going to go into it agreeing to draw. But as the clock ticks on, teams take fewer risks, they're less direct, they press less, and it can often kind of fizzle out into that. So that's something to keep an eye on.
That Burton-Exeter game, basically, on Saturday, that's like, Exeter beating Burton is like the nuclear result in there, and most of the other results will make it very difficult for Exeter to survive. Blackpool, you mentioned, they marched on. They beat Wycombe away, their first away win since before Christmas.
They did, yeah. It was a smash and grab away win, but credit to them for getting it. Wycombe had a fair few chances in the game, both in the first half where they were, it wasn't a great first half, I'd say, but Wycombe probably just about the better team. But then Leahy headed into his own net from a corner just after half time, and then about 20 minutes or so to go, Hayden Coulson was sent off for a second yellow card, and after that, there were a fair few opportunities from Wycombe, and all credit to Bailey Peacock-Farrell, who made a string of really good saves. One of which did come after he kind of spilled it himself, but even so,
one of the great high ceiling, low floor goalkeepers.
Yeah, exactly.
Of our time.
He's got it in to make some big saves, and he was, he was the protagonist here in a win that was unexpected, but also huge in terms of Blackpool's survival aims. Because had they even drawn this game, even though on the face of it would have been a decent result, they wouldn't have been in the commanding position they're in now, which is with 2 games to go. They are 6 points clear of Exeter, albeit with a worse goal difference. But yeah, 1 more point between now and the end of the season will confirm that they are safe. And realistically, you probably reckon they're probably already safe.
It's been such a funny scrap, this. There's like almost a dozen teams that have just had a really topsy-turvy last few months. One of them, Donny, George, it was only this time last week. We were looking at, or maybe 2 weeks ago, they'd lost to Mansfield, they'd lost to Exeter in quite alarming circumstances over Easter Monday. Then they beat Reading, and over the weekend they beat Northampton, already relegated Northampton, who are now bottom of the league.
Yeah, I thought there was a chance Northampton would kind of turn up here, but it wasn't really to be. Bottom of the league now. After a first half where Doncaster made all the running but weren't able to score. It kind of felt like it was coming, and it came shortly afterwards with Lee diverting home from a set piece. Keeper Delican made it 2-0 shortly after that. Paul Broadbent made it 3. Cameron McGeehan got his inevitable goal late on in the day with a close range finish. It'll be interesting to see what happens with him next season, because he's someone who he's got his career is quite strange in terms of him being a kind of precocious young talent at Luton who went abroad but then seemed to kind of return to English football at a lower ebb than when he left, and he's always performed well for pretty poor teams. I don't think he should be a League Two player next season, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, it's curtains for Northampton, as we know, and this is a win that just really secures and finalises the fact that Doncaster will be in League One next season.
And what sort of shape will Cobblers be in League Two next season? That's something we will have to mull over the summer. But I would say the mood, the atmosphere, the vibe, not good. And finally on Sunday, Port Vale 0, Wigan 0. Most notable is a tweet I saw from Wigan fan Craig Shaw, who said... Craig Shaw.
All right.
He said, whoever kept farting in that away end to the right of the goal at the front, get your bowels checked. You smell like you're dying. #WAFC.
Wow.
0-0. Cheers and thanks for listening or watching. If you like League Two and the Championship, you can find a breakdown of their weekend. Plenty to chat about wherever you found this. Nice one. Go well.